Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Journey into Comics with your hosts, Nate Phillips and Brandon Stone.
I am a god, you dull creature.
Hey everybody, Nate here with Journey into Comics. Today I am here with two of my favorite people. I'm recording this awesome episode with Siike and Shuddy. How are you guys doing today?
Yo, I'm doing good. How are you?
Amazing.
I am well as well.
That's good to hear, man. Absolutely. So we had the last time we were all together on the Age of Ultron, or the Journey into Ultron episode. We discussed briefly coming back and talking about The Flash. Now, I mentioned then that this show hasn't really covered any of the CW shows because my counterpart doesn't watch, which is very unfortunate.
He should be fired.
Hey now, I'll make sure Brandon, he'll hear that too. He'll be like, what the fuck? No, don't do that to me. But you guys watch The Flash and Arrow.
Religiously.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I figured it would be fun to sit down and just powwow about what we thought about mainly this season of The Flash, being that it is in its freshman year. And, if we touch on Arrow a little bit, I think that's going to be okay too, because I felt like they took a really slow, boring season of Arrow and turned it up to 11 in the last two episodes. So, but we may get to that when we get to that. Let's start. I want to know directly from your guys' mouths, top favorite moment apiece from the first season of The Flash. Like, what was your definitive, like, this show has captivated me well beyond anything else?
I wouldn't even say it was from this season of The Flash. I've pretty much been all in since the mid-season finale of Arrow last year.
Right.
When Barry made his appearance and they showed his origin, him getting hit by lightning at the end of that episode. That's when I put all my chips on the show and was all in from the jump.
Yeah, I almost have to second that. I mean, I will say, though, that the absolute clincher probably was the pilot. After the pilot, it was so much fun that I was like, okay, I think no matter what, I'm going to be on for the whole season. And then when episode 2 came out, and I think the ratings were higher or higher than episode 1 or something like that. I mean, they broke some kind of record. I was like, okay, not only am I on board, but it seems like the masses of the nerd community is as well, and that makes me feel good because normally when I like something passionately, I'm the only one. so it made me feel really good that people were digging it as much as I was.
Excellent. See, it was weird for me because, as I've mentioned on the show many times, I was a Marvel fanboy for the longest, and actually wasn't giving Arrow or Flash a chance at all. And last year, we had Westicles on the show, and he was like, you need to really give Arrow a shot, man. And I timed it so perfectly that I finished the second season of Arrow the week before season 3 dropped, which meant I could also be caught up with the Flash. And at that point, just on how strong Arrow had been and how, season 2 is probably one of the best seasons of television for a 23-episode show, but yeah. Then to get to The Flash, I was just like, this show has something special, and I'm going to continue to watch and learn, because I don't know about this universe. I don't know about these characters, so I started learning, and then while I'm watching the characters unfold, I'm going and searching and finding out who are these characters, what are their real backstories, what's important about them, which, made me love the show even more, actually. I will say that the moment that I thought was, to me, probably the hell yeah moment was the reveal that Wells is Reverse Flash. And we don't quite know why yet, and you're just like, oh my god, they just cliffhangered us for the mid-season, hard.
and my favorite part about that was revealing him as the Reverse Flash wasn't even the show kept picking up steam after that.
Yeah, they introduced time travel and new metahumans. They keep teasing us with Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern, and as hardcore as they're making things, and making them so obvious for Flash, Oliver ending up in the end of season 3 of Arrow in Coast City in his past and his present. Do you guys think we're going to see Hal Jordan? Or are they just really like cock teasing us like to no end?
Well, these are the guys that made the Green Lantern movie. So possibly.
You would think that they would have to, but it depends where they go with. I mean, it's not going to tie into the movies at all, so they really could have a Hal Jordan in the TV universe that doesn't affect the movies or anything. So I think we're definitely going to see him in some capacity, because they really did talk about him a lot, especially near the end of the season. Yeah,
absolutely. Because they'd gone to Ferris like around past that sign a couple times, and he's gone to Coast City before to get pizza, I believe. So yeah, they definitely like hint at a lot in that show.
I mean, the nice thing is I think DC kind of made it clear, and maybe this is why they did it, and while I'm totally against this, and this is going on to the side of movie news, Ezra Miller is also portraying Barry Allen.
I don't like that casting one bit.
In the movie. They could have just made it Wally West, and I think it would have worked. I mean, really. Alternate timeline. But I think what that does is that shows DC saying, look, we can have small screen Barry Allen and big screen Barry Allen, and they don't affect each other.
Right.
Now, will that movie be good? Who knows? We're way far out from it. We just know the one singular person that is cast as the Flash, Barry Allen, which is Ezra Miller. Outside of that, we have no details. So to judge it this early it doesn't really do anything for us, but it's kind of a mixed bag. Part of me feels like, man, you really could have taken a shot in the dark and went with Wally West in the movie, and that could have been an interesting way to handle things. But at the same time, like I said, them essentially saying that their small screen and their big screen can have the same characters and not feel like they're stepping on each other's toes is kind of a nice, hopeful sentiment.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing about DC, though, is that they're ever since the New 52 as a company, like merged like DC Entertainment and Warner Brothers, they've just had this like, kind of.
Uh-oh. I think we just lost Siike.
Sounds like it.
Hopefully his Skype didn't break.
Let's see if we can get him back.
Okay.
Hey, I'm so sorry.
You better be.
I don't know what happened.
No worries. It's raw. It's fine. So continue on with what you were saying, man.
So ever since the New 52 launched and DC has kind of become DC Entertainment and working closer with Warner Brothers, I just feel like there's been this really big hard-on for Barry, and I like Barry. Barry Allen's awesome. When I first got into comics, Barry was the Flash, and I remember when Wally first became the Flash in the comics, I hated the hell out of him for like a year or two. Like I was like, oh god, this guy is not as good as Barry. What the heck? I don't like him. He's kind of a dick. But over the course of the history of Wally West, I've really grown to like him, and I really liked him in the Justice League and building a good relationship with like Kyle Rayner and Dick Grayson, and I really like the character a lot, and I would love to see more of him. But DC is just adamant about pushing Barry, and I think there's kind of a purpose. I heard rumors that the reason they're making the movie also Barry is that the movie universe, starting from Man of Steel onward, is Earth 1, and the TV universe is Earth 2, leaving a possibility of some kind of crisis or crossover at some point.
That would be interesting to see that happen, actually.
That would definitely set them apart from the Marvel movies to unite their TV and movie universes like that. I think it's smart, and I hope they are doing it. But at the same time, like I'm with Shuddy. Like I don't care for the casting of a Flash movie, and I would much rather see, I'm just going to keep watching the show, and that's what I love is that at least we have the show on TV. But chances are I might skip that movie. I mean, it's too early to say. I haven't seen a trailer. I haven't seen anything on it. So I'm sure I'll change my mind. But as of right now, I'm in love with the show so much, especially after the finale of the season. It was such a great. It's probably one of the first best first seasons of a show I've seen in a long time. Definitely the best comic book show first season I've ever seen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
As do I.
So I got to ask, if you guys had one complaint about season 1 of The Flash, one complaint at all, what would it be? Because I know what mine is, but I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Iris West being a cunt.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, she was literally the least likable character on the entire show, in my opinion. Out of all the bad guys and everything that was going on, the person I hated the most was Iris fucking West.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, considering how far we've come with like awesome female characters in comic book shows, especially like Arrow, being kind of the pathway to Flash, it really upset me. Like I'll agree. I don't think she was my least favorite thing about the show, but she's definitely something I complained about a lot was Iris West, because I think the girl is fine. Like I think she's doing a fine job overall, but she's so much like. I mean, I just feel like they just cut a page from what's her name from Smallville, Lana Lang, and I really hated that. They just made her like the girl that the hero pined over, and but she was in a relationship with another guy, and it's like, look, A, we know kind of that they're going to end up together, and B, so in order to do that, they have to make all these stupid stories where she doesn't know what she wants and she's with the wrong guy. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't like any of that. It doesn't do anything for the character. She's supposed to be like the Lois Lane of this universe. And she just kind of comes across as a girl that just has shit handed to her. Like pretty much the only reason she got her job at the newspaper place was because Barry's the Flash and he kept showing up and telling her things. And to feed her blog. So I'm just like, oh, that's so that would be like if Chloe Sullivan only got a job at the Daily Planet because she wrote about the Blur. She didn't start writing up. She didn't. That wasn't the trajectory of that character. And I wish it wasn't for Iris either. I wish she got things of her own volition instead of just things handed to her.
See, and I thought that Iris kind of had like pretty much what you're saying, and I came up with the term like CW-ness, because it's kind of got that CW over drama on her character. Like Candace Patton, you said it dead on. She does a fine job, but the story they were feeding her in the first season, like I don't think once I felt emotionally connected to her struggle. And a lot of times with other characters, it was like, man, I feel for Eddie, or I feel for Barry, or I feel for Joe even, or even that sometimes you'd feel for Wells, but Iris was just like, yeah, okay, it's Iris. So what? Could we do something better with our time? Where's Kate?
Yeah, she comes across as the girlfriend, and I'm just like, I don't like that. Like she's more than just the girl that Barry pines over in the comic. She's a very strong female character, and it's not like she doesn't have to put on a costume and kick everyone's butt. But I'd like for once like Barry to just not know what to do in a situation and her figure it out, or her help drive the story in some way other than just being someone's girlfriend.
And the way that she started acting when Barry was dating the other girl just made me hate her even more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, bitch, you didn't want him.
Oh, Wally's wife?
And I really liked Linda. I was like, oh, please, just be with Linda. She's awesome. She's totally his speed. She actually moves too fast for him, which I like. I'm like, oh, that's the kind of girl you need, Barry.
Yeah. One thing, the thing that actually kind of bummed me out about this show, and I think it just maybe depends on the market or depends on how you watch it, but a lot of times we would have the episode delayed a week or a few days because it would be like the Cubs are playing, got to put the Cubs on WGN instead of the Flash, so they'd move it to Sunday, or they would screw up the order. So there were some things that kind of came out of sync. Luckily, through the power of torrenting, I still got to watch them week to week, but we do usually go to our friend's place on Tuesdays to kind of like ritually watch The Flash, and it was kind of spoiled sometimes because we'd go there and it'd be like, oh yeah, the Cubs are on and they moved it to Sunday. Well, shit, I can't watch it now, And that's a bummer. And that's one thing I think a lot of TV shows suffer from is people can't find them when they want to watch them. You tell someone that the show airs at 7 Central on Wednesday, which is, Arrow, or 7 Central on Tuesday, The Flash, they better start at 7 Central on those days at that exact time so people can know where they are. If you have to go hunting for it, you're like, oh, well, maybe The Flash got canceled. Not everybody is internet savvy and knows how to understand when things change.
Do you guys have the CW app? Because one thing I do is sometimes on my PlayStation, because I don't have cable, so I can't ever watch things live. And being obviously on the West Coast, everything gets spoiled for me for me on Twitter as it's airing on the East Coast because of goddamn live tweeters. But so what I usually do is I try to stay off Twitter for a couple hours, and then around 11 p.m. midnight my time, the CW.com posts the episode for free on their website. And then that's also if you have the app on your phone or Kindle like I do, it goes up on there as well. So usually around midnight, if I'm still awake working, I'll take a work break and I'll sit and watch the episode finally at that time. So I don't know if that's an option for you, but I would highly recommend it. That way you're watching it and it's giving the show credit as a viewer, because you're watching it from CW.
That's super smart. I need to look into that for sure. And the nice thing is that I don't, even though I also don't have cable. My dad does, so I can get his if it requires a dish password for CW or something. But if it's free straight up, then that's even better.
Yeah, they because I watch. I've been a CW fan since Dawson's Creek, and I've watched Smallville and every episode of Smallville. I watched Supernatural is my favorite show. But I got to say that's how much I like The Flash. Is this season? By episode 3, every other show sucked to me. That's how good Flash was. I didn't like this season of Arrow, or I don't say I didn't like it overall, because like you said, it ended strong, but it was so boring compared to The Flash. And same with Supernatural, and that's a show where I literally have 3 tattoos on my arm from that show, and I found it boring this season because it just wasn't The Flash.
Barry Allen sped past all the competition.
He did.
In a word. Okay, so we've kind of dotted around it. Let's actually dive into this season. Just a couple episodes off the top of my head that I can think of that really stood out. As I said, the mid-season finale was important. Obviously, the Flash Arrow crossover was huge. I mean, that was an amazing event. But really, the episode to me that absolutely stood out as probably my favorite from this season was Out of Time, which I believe was episode 16. The return of the Weather Wizard, the other Martin brother, and Barry travels through time. And interesting, I'm wondering, and get your guys' opinion, do we see that timeline where Barry was running on the coast again someday? Because now that they've, in the finale, opened up the idea of the multiverse, will we go back to that ever?
That's a good question. I think that was the same freeway. What's his name? Oliver Queen drove in at the end of the season.
Actually, I think you're right. Weird. I didn't even notice that. Huh.
It might be. They film it all up in Canada, Vancouver area, so they probably use a lot of the same locations.
It would make sense. I don't know if we'll see it, though, because I think for the non-comic book viewer, it would really clutter things.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Let me ask you, can we dive into what exactly, because time travel is such a messy thing. Can we dive into, that Barry, basically this show is an alternate universe of the world Barry was supposed to live in?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because I find that the most fascinating part of the show is that none of this kind of should have happened.
Correct. The weird thing about, like you were saying about time travel, is that with The Flash, we don't know the rules of time travel yet. And I think that's going to be important to the next season and the introduction of what I'm just going to assume is Rip Hunter, essentially teaching Barry, like, you've been time traveling wrong and you've created more problems than good.
Yeah.
But as far as, it's weird, it's paradoxical. This show is very much built in a paradox.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just like, because I guess like the whole, because I kept wondering all season like how this show could exist at all. Because if he had, I mean, if Harrison Wells went back in time to kill Barry, but ended up killing his mom out of spite, that means that when in his reality, Barry's mom never died, and Barry yet still became the Flash. And then I was like, well, how does that work? And then when they explained it in the final episode that, they created an alternate timeline. So Barry was supposed, like that newspaper, saying that Iris and him get married, that is a potential future. But Harrison Wells, but it is a newspaper out of time. Like Harrison Wells is creating he's trying to replicate his future, but he's just failing miserably at it every time he gets more and more involved. And I don't know. But then Barry, like the decision Eddie makes at the end, erasing Reverse Flash, I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it in my head, but the time travel, it's always like that. The more you think about it, the less it holds water, I guess.
Why didn't Eddie just get a vasectomy?
Well, here's the thing: is you can still adopt. Like it never said that he was blood.
I guess that's true.
You could still adopt.
That whole thing has me very confused, time travel wise. That specific part of it.
Yeah.
Because if Eddie dies, Thawne is never ever born. It means he doesn't go back. He doesn't kill Barry's mom. He doesn't create the particle accelerator. None of that happens.
Right,
but yet when he disappears, everything is pretty much the same as it was.
Well, not really, because he disappeared, that's why the black hole reopened.
Right, but like I understand that. But shouldn't it have all just been something different going on at that exact moment, and if he never occurred?
Well, it depends, because I mean, like, it's weird because technically he is an Eobard Thawne from a parallel universe, kinda, and he's existing in this parallel universe. So I don't know why Eddie killing himself would affect this Eobard Thawne, but maybe, I don't know, like maybe it could be something to do with them opening the first black wormhole. Maybe that temporarily connects them all somehow. Maybe it's something they'll explain in the season 2 premiere. But I do know that event definitely kickstarted that wormhole opening up again, and maybe that wormhole is trying to fix things. Maybe that wormhole is going to be like, all right, now that I'm open, I'm going to take Iris and Joe, and I'm going to take Cisco, and I'm going to take Caitlin, and I'm going to throw them in alternate universes where they're different people now because this event undid itself. And maybe that's the journey Barry has to do in the premiere of season 2. Maybe he has to save Eobard Thawne.
Oh, that would be awesome. Interesting that if Eobard doesn't live, that means Wells never died. So maybe we see Tom Cavanaugh back as normal Harrison Wells, trying to help Team Flash, but they're standoffish towards him, like, hey, we don't, this is weird. You're the same vessel, you look the same, but you're a different person. And that trying to overcome that odd sense of what you used to have with someone before you found out they were, your arch nemesis and tried to kill you, and.
As someone who's has been through the medical shit that I've been through, and has actually met people that knew me before and know me now and treat me completely differently because they see a completely different person in front of them, I would love to see something like that explored on the show, where you have Tom Cavanaugh come in and play Harrison Wells, but not the like snarky, funny, kind of charming Harrison that they knew. I think that would be amazing to see something like that on the show, because I want him to stay around. Like, I'm sure the actor who plays the actual Eobard is a good actor, but I like Tom so much, I don't want to see anyone else play play that character, whether he's Wells or Eobard. He's just too good.
He was too good. Like, Tom Cavanaugh was probably the highlight of this show. Just because to see his evolution from episode 1 to episode 23 and to see how, he slowly changes the more he gets involved with Barry and the more he realizes he kind of does care about Barry for his own selfish reasons, obviously, but he actually has kind of got this weird camaraderie. And he's jealous of Barry. Barry essentially gets it all, and all Eobard wants to do is go home. And he can't.
I want to know what Barry did to him.
Oh, in the future?
Yeah, I really, because when he just looks at him, he's like, ask me why I do this to you. And he's like, why do you do this to me? He goes, because I hate you. I'm just like, okay. Like, that's rage right there. Like, I want to know what Barry exactly did to him or what he thinks Barry did to him.
So when the episode starts, we are dealing with one thing I had always said, talking to the few people that I watched The Flash with, was what are they going to do next season about the intro? Because, as we know, it starts, my name is Barry Allen, lightning, blah, blah, blah. Something killed my mother. I'm going to find him and get justice for my father. I am the Flash. But then this episode, he says, and today is that day. And you're just like, finally, here we are. So now we know that next season's going to have a new intro, I would assume. Wouldn't make sense to go back to that one, but that's kind of awesome, and that's how they do on these CW shows. Arrow's always constantly changing their introduction to the show.
Yeah.
But, we get in there, and he is talking to Wells, and they have this great back and forth, and Wells essentially gives him everything he wants to hear. I can help you if you help me. Go back and you can save your mother. And I wonder if in the time travel for this show, the way it works is if a wormhole is opened up, you can change events of the past and it won't directly affect the future. Like in some ways it can, like if someone doesn't die when they were supposed to, they may be alive. But like the other things that were happening aren't necessarily changeable. I think that's the way I'm trying to say that. But one thing I really liked about this episode also, I'm jumping around, I know, but we go and we get to see Barry start time traveling to create the wormhole. And he's seeing alternate Barry Allen realities, alternate characters in the series realities. What were some things that stuck out to you guys when that was happening, that was just like, oh my God, did they just really show that?
I don't know. Shud, you go first. I don't know if I saw it. I don't know if I was paying enough attention because I was watching at 1 a.m. So I only know what people posted about the next day online.
The two that really struck me were Caitlin as Killer Frost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jay Garrick's helmet coming through the whatever you want to call it, the wormhole.
Yeah.
The wormhole.
The Jay Garrick thing was awesome, and I love how Wells was just like, that's my cue.
Like, I need to go now.
Because I'm wondering if that means like that that Garrick was trying to come back and fix things, Like, I wonder if that'll tie into Legends of Tomorrow or something like that.
There are so many things that need to be talked about and explored in this episode. Jay Garrick obviously is huge, being the original Flash. The Flash of Two Worlds was a story that they did where they tied Earth 1 and Earth 2 together. So it seems like with the Flash, nothing is coincidence. And that's funny that I say that because of the whole thing with Eddie. But nothing is coincidence, and they always, like at some point, I cannot wait for the moment where we are living the scene where Barry in the future suit with the white logo is telling Barry from this season not to save his mom.
Oh, yeah.
And we live that moment from his perspective where he's in the future and he's trying to fix things. That would be an awesome moment, as would Jay Garrick showing up. The possibility that Wally West shows up in the TV show is even stronger now that, DC's not doing him as a movie. There's so many options with the wormhole opened.
I hope we see Bart Allen.
Bart Allen would be cool.
I love Impulse. I love Kid Flash. Like, he's awesome.
We got some confirmations on this episode. Cisco officially has metahuman powers, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll see Vibe in season 2, as well as probably Legends of Tomorrow.
Here's a couple things I'm worried about, though. In the comic books, Vibe usually has a really dorky costume, so hopefully Cisco can kind of look badass. And second of all, Cisco in the comics always dies, and I don't want that. I like Carlos Valdez as Cisco Ramon. He plays he's a great character.
Yeah. Yeah, I like him a lot. I don't think he's become such a fan favorite. I don't see him going anywhere.
Plus, I mean,
at least
and if he goes, who names our villains? You're gonna have Caitlyn do it? That doesn't work.
Well, I feel like if they're coming from alternate timelines, they're probably already going to have names.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good thought. Now, I think that Cisco's also a big part of that too. Us talking about people coming from alternate timelines, that he'll be able to tell who's not from the current Earth they're on now. He'll be able to, as his powers state, see through the vibrations of the universe and go, wait a minute, you're not from around here. And that's a problem.
Right. I'd like that. I would like him to be some kind of radar. Like, he doesn't have to like beatbox and dance and shoot vibrations from his hands. Like, if he's just like a radar to detect people, I think that would be freaking awesome.
That would be freaking awesome. Let's I got a question, and
right.
Let's get sensitive here on Journey into Comics. We don't do this often, but did the finale make you guys misty-eyed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, baby.
Me too, honestly, and really just the interaction with Joe and Barry, and then the interaction with Henry and Barry. The one with Henry and Barry almost killed me. I mean, I had tears dripping down my face. I looked like a little bitch, I'm sure. But there was just like a moment where he was talking to a smaller kid version of me, that had a different upbringing, obviously. But it was like I was hearing what he was saying, and it was just like so overwhelming, really. And I was like, God, this writing couldn't get any better,
The scene that did it to me was when he was standing over his mother talking to her, and he removed his mask.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
That was very powerful television.
I like that. I like how she was like, "You look just like my father," and he just like smiles at her, and he's like, "It's me, Mom. It's Barry." And I'm just like, "Oh, to me, I thought him coming to that conclusion of not." Like, when he saw his other self, that's probably my only complaint about the episode, is I wish there was a little bit more than just like his future self going, hey, don't do this. Because I feel like if I was in that moment, it might take more than me from the future saying, don't do it. Because it's like, this is what he's been building towards all season. He wants to save his mom. Obviously he can't, but I like when he did come to the decision to not save her. The heartbreaking part, the part that made me start to tear up, was when he had to sit in the next room and hear her die.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That to me was the clincher. At that point I was already misty-eyed, and then by the time he was talking to her, I was already kind of crying, because I'm close to my mom, and I just grew up with just my mom, and so putting myself in Barry's shoes at that moment was agonizing. It was absolutely agonizing.
I share in that sentiment, kind of flip-flop of you. I grew up with exclusively my dad. So, and me and my mom's relationship is very, rocky to say the least, not to get into any kind of major details. But, so it also did make me like misty-eyed with Barry and Nora in that scene. Because it was just like, from a different perspective to me, I was like, man, this is a relationship that I don't necessarily even know what it feels like to have that, So it was to me, it was in a different realm, and that's why when Henry and Barry were talking, that was so overwhelming. was back to my childhood and my dad raising me and going through all that. You know, I got to know, we're still talking about the finale here, and you guys may have only seen it once and maybe twice, and maybe I'm kind of crazy and over-analytical and watch episodes way too many times, but I noticed something that I didn't catch on my first 2 or 3 playthroughs, and literally I was going to tell you guys about it, and then comicbook.com posted about it, and I was like, well, motherfucker stole my ideas. Now I'm not going to sound original. That sucks. There was something around Eddie's neck when he flies into the wormhole, which is a very, in my opinion, very important moment, because then we do not have confirmation that Eddie Thawne is 100% dead.
Right. Or that he can go into a universe where they can save him.
Exactly. But there is some kind of a talisman or a medallion on his necklace. At first watch, I just thought, oh, it was the ring he tried to give Iris. How ironic and poetic. But this is a very dense-looking gold coin type thing. And from my research and studies, there's really only one character in the Flash universe that utilizes a talisman, and that's Cobalt Blue. You guys knowing the comics way more than I do, Cobalt Blue, is this something that you guys would see happening with Eddie?
Oh, I I never thought of it, but possibly. Although I thought Eddie, and that was the thing is, I remember me and you talking about Eddie, a couple weeks ago, and I had mentioned I think if you want to give Eddie a really heroic moment in this show, what you should do is have him shoot himself. And then when it happened, I was like, well, that sucks, because I told that to about 20 people, and they were probably all pissed at me when they watched the final episode. But I don't know. I would like to see more Eddie, because I will say at the beginning of the season, him and Harrison Wells in the first couple episodes, I wasn't completely sold on them. But Harrison Wells got me almost 3-4 episodes in. But then Eddie kind of disappeared for a couple episodes, because he wasn't a series regular at first, but he played bigger part in the back end. And once he was in it more, I ended up really liking the guy a lot. And to the point where I just wanted Iris to be with him. I'm just like, you know what? Surprise us. Let's create a show where Barry doesn't get the girl that he thinks he wants. And let's maybe create a new love interest for him, because I would rather Iris just stop being a girl and just, be with Eddie. Cobalt Blue would be an interesting thing to do with Betty, with Eddie, but I don't know. I wouldn't put it past the show. I mean, we are going to go into alternate universes, so if they were thinking that, you could do it and still not affect, the main Eddie.
Yeah, because the guys, Kreisberg and Berlanti, said that at least for the first half of this next season, the death of Eddie's going to stick, which is good, because that gives new emotion. I mean, Joe's going to have to overcome the pain of losing a partner. Barry and Eddie had become really good friends, actually, even though they were fighting for the same girl. It was kind of this weird, I totally get you, man, let me back up off your business. But this show just did so many great things. I mean, we haven't even touched on, Gorilla Grodd, which in his one episode, full-on Grodd mode, was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene where he makes Joe almost shoot himself was
freaking
oh my God. Intense.
Not just, I think the way that they set up all of the Flash's rogues gallery was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Who's your guys' favorite rogue from this season?
Captain Cold.
It has to absolutely be. Wentworth Miller did a phenomenal job.
He's awesome.
Absolutely. And I love the way that him and Grant Gustin play off each other as Barry Allen and Leonard Snart. Their chemistry on screen is very, very noticeable.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that he figures out who Barry is, and then that's this whole no real big secret. I love his sister coming into the fold, and Cisco and her kind of having a thing.
I like that a lot, yeah.
Those little stories are just really fun to see these characters evolving with different people. And again, back to Cisco naming all the rogues. What an awesome way to do that, because it is kind of dorky to name your supervillains. And then they just made it a fun thing because he's just this guy who's immersed in, sci-fi and TV and what have you.
Right. Yeah, he's a dork. It's like, oh, let's give the dorky thing to the dork.
And made all of us dorks like, yeah, I want to name supervillains. Hell yeah.
Right.
Who is your least favorite rogue?
Ooh. I don't know.
See, I felt like
Of the ones that mattered, I mean, Captain Cold was very good. I liked Boomerang a lot.
Yeah, Boomerang just kind of showed up and kicked everyone's ass for an episode. That was pretty cool.
Weather Wizard, the second iteration of him. I was surprised when Weather Wizard was killed at the beginning of the season, but I was very happy with the way they turned it around.
Yeah.
And had his brother take up the mantle, because you can't have the Flash's Rogues Gallery without Weather Wizard.
True.
I was a little bummed we didn't see Mirror Master,
he's coming.
but he has to. I mean, it would only make sense.
And the top.
The top. You cannot bring
Yeah.
the top to TV. How would that even work?
You got to bring the top. I love that line from the Flashpoint animated movie when he's like, hey, Flash, look, you're the bottom and I'm the top.
And I loved the Trickster episode.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that
me
was such
too.
a love letter to the 90s series.
I don't have a least favorite rogue. I've decided. They're all awesome on the show.
That's the correct answer. I was hoping that you guys came to that conclusion because I thought about these last night. Like there was like a couple things I wanted to make sure to ask you guys or get opinions on, and I was like, is there a bad rogue? And I honestly don't think there was a single rogue this season that didn't do a great job furthering the development of Barry Allen.
Yeah, I agree. I have one weird question though.
Sure.
Between Flash and Arrow, what's with like scientist guys being ordained ministers? like how convenient for like, I'm like, just cast a priest. Like, what the hell, man? like both Ray Palmer and Professor Stein are both like marrying people. I'm like, I get it. You're on a time crunch, but like, just bring in a priest. It doesn't give him one line of dialogue. It doesn't matter. Have your cousin play the role. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I didn't know if that stood out to you guys. I'm like, really? Professor Stein is marrying them?
Do you think that maybe it's because they're rich science guys and they just have nothing to do with their time, so they just, oh, fuck it, I'll be an ordained minister, whatever. I'll learn to surf and I'll marry people. Like, that's my life.
I hope rich scientist guys have busier lives than that. Like, hopefully they're curing things.
Well, we
Yeah, I
we
mean,
can only
especially
hope.
when Stein is a nuclear scientist,
Right.
he should probably be paying more attention to that than getting ordained by the Church of the Dude.
Exactly.
So,
All right, cool. Well, I just thought I'd bring it up because I thought it was weird.
yeah, that's actually something that until you said it, I hadn't thought about. So
I didn't even think about it either.
So that's point for you, Siike. That's an awesome thing to think of. Now
I got to give my Dean Hoyle credit for that because we talk about that all the time.
Oh, awesome. Heck yeah. So we're moving ever so close to it, and I think we might as well touch on it because there is something that is not directly the Flash that's going to be the future of the CW verse that released a trailer, and I'm talking Legends of Tomorrow. Have you guys seen it both? Both of you seen it?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Are you pissed off like I am, though?
How so?
Well, because to me, here's my thing. They gave away major plot points for next season of Arrow and Flash in that trailer, talking about what happened with the Atom, how the rebirth of Sarah Lance comes about. Like, there's nothing left to the imagination. You can almost tell me exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to play out. To keep Talia from waging war within the insides of the League of Assassins, Malcolm goes, oh, the only option I have is to revive the one she loved. but she's been dead a lot longer, so psychologically she's going to be fucked.
Yeah, there is that. Or my thought is, and I hope this doesn't spoil a mystery, if I'm right, but what if Ray Palmer did die in that explosion, and they pulled him from the moment before his death, and his journey this season is that he has to unite these people together and work, and make them work as a team so they can save the universe. But then he has to get put right back into the moment of his death. So he's fighting this season knowing that it ends with him dying.
I would not like that. I mean, it's a great idea, honestly. But I like Brandon Routh way too much. And that's funny coming from me who ripped on Superman Returns so heavily because it was not very good.
Well, this character is so much better for him than Superman.
Yeah. Although I feel this character should have been named Ted Cord. Because every time I'm just like, he doesn't come across very Ray Palmer-y. Obviously he will now with the suit shrinking and stuff, and it was like a slow build to his character arc, and that's cool. Like I'm down for that. I just this season he just felt very much like a Ted Cord, but now that they're like, oh, he's gonna shrink and he's gonna be on Legend tomorrow, I'm like, all right, well then I accept him as Ray Palmer now. So I'm excited for him because I feel like he's actually going to play the character he should be playing this in Legends of Tomorrow.
Now that you bring up Ted Cord and Rip Hunter was mentioned.
He was mentioned.
Do you think we see Booster?
Oh my God, I hope so. Booster has
because you can't have Rip Hunter without Booster Gold.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Booster Gold is the father of Rip Hunter.
That is correct.
Bingo! Yes, points for me for not reading.
A Booster Gold is absolutely one of my all-time favorite DC characters. And you talked about earlier how you didn't grow up a DC kid, you grew up like kind of a Marvel kid. I will, even though I slam stuff like Man of Steel and I don't like a lot of the DC stuff, like the announcements they made, I do like their television universe, and I will always feel that their characters are better than Marvel characters, especially when they're done right. And I feel like Berlanti and these guys, they really get these characters, and they're doing an exceptional job with characters that a couple years ago no one cared about. Although I will give Smallville a lot of credit for making Green Arrow like a knowable character, because he was a fan favorite on that show.
Sorry to cut you off. One of the women I work with watches Arrow, but she complains to me all the time about how much she liked Ollie from Smallville better.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, good. There's people out there that remember.
See, and I never saw Smallville. Is that a journey I should take?
Probably not now, because it'll come across as like it's like watching Lois and Clark 5 years after it ended. It doesn't really hold up. But although when it was on, it was one of my favorite shows on TV, even with all of its CW-ness.
I've relatively recently started it, and I'm 2 or 3 seasons in, and I really enjoy it. I didn't watch it much when it was on.
Right.
But I would definitely say if you can get your hands on it without spending an arm and a leg, then I would definitely take that journey.
On Black Friday, you could probably buy the DVDs for like $5 each season.
Yeah, I was gonna say Best Buy usually has good sales.
Yeah, I'd recommend that. If you paid $50 for the entire 10 seasons, it's worth watching, because I'm just a big Superman fan. He is my absolute favorite in the DC universe as far as the mainstream characters go. And anytime he's portrayed, I'll watch it. I may not always like it, but I will always watch them for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, now you guys got me interested in Smallville, which is kind of awesome, because that was something I had already kind of thought about, and now I have a little bit of a push to do so. So I'll go after those. Let's talk here. The next thing I want to discuss, what do you guys want to see the most in Season 2 of The Flash? Like, what are your guys' must-haves for the next season to be even better than what the first season was?
Ooh.
Well, I think most importantly, I don't know how they would do it with the way they set up Legends of Tomorrow and Captain Cold being almost an anti-hero instead of being a bad guy. But I mean, I would like to see the Rogues actually be the Rogues together.
Yeah, I want to see next season. I want the main villain of the season to be the Rogues. Like that would be awesome. Like no like Harrison Wells, no mastermind or anything. Just a group of guys that just constantly are a pain in the ass for Flash.
That's exactly what I want, and I think an introduction of Wally West would be awesome as well.
Yeah,
because he's related to Iris, so it wouldn't be anything to be. Oh, my cousin moved.
Right. Sure.
Moved into the city, and then him and Barry become, like best pals.
I like that. I can see that happening. I wouldn't mind that. I would definitely, if they're going to do alternate universes and stuff like that. I want to see I want to see an evil Barry.
And him use the ring for his costume.
Yeah, definitely that. Because I love Cisco asking Wells that in the final episode. He was like, "So does the ring just come out? Like, what's the deal with that?"
I want to know. No, I don't. Actually, I don't want to know. Okay, I kind of want to know. I thought that was a fun little Cisco play.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting, and I know I like. It's weird because I'm not a huge Green Lantern fan. Like, I do enjoy Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, but they're not. He's like my favorite character. But I think it would be just totally phenomenal if from the wormhole, Hal Jordan is carrying a lifeless Barry out of the wormhole, and he saved him as the opening sequence to season 2. No one has any clue that it's going to happen. They didn't talk about it. They didn't hype it up. And then it's just that oh shit moment. The missing pilot that everyone was talking about has returned.
Right.
And then that way we can get closer and closer to either having a Justice Society of America or TV having their own Justice League without the main 3.
True.
I just thought of something that did kind of irk me about the season.
Ooh.
And it goes back to the goddamn time travel. I didn't like that he had to use the particle accelerator when they had a perfectly good cosmic treadmill.
It's funny because a lot of people have been talking about that too. The treadmill,
when the treadmill first showed up at the start of the season, I was like, "Oh my god, they've set it up for the cosmic treadmill, the way Barry travels through time." And then it was nothing more than just a fucking treadmill.
And it's weird because the treadmill kind of had a lot of scenes in the later half of the season. There was a lot of times where Barry would be sitting on the treadmill and having heart-to-hearts. I mean, shit, the moment that Iris confronts him about being the Flash, they go in that room and he's sitting there, she's sitting there while he's talking to her. And then later, when
with
Barry,
him and Joe.
Exactly. So it's like they teased it a lot, but they didn't go anywhere with the cosmic treadmill. And I agree. I think that'd be cool to see in season 2. I mean, it's something that could definitely happen. Maybe that's how they figure out how to properly allow Barry to time travel is with the treadmill. Because, he accidentally time traveled once without the particle accelerator.
True.
So you could always, say that he can do it on the treadmill. This show was so damn good. There was not a dull moment. They continuously left you guessing. I really liked how they did the little post-episode teasers with Wells or in the second half Barry. Figuring out who Wells really is and just giving you an extra couple minutes of the story that is almost a plot. It's a plot device, but they're not overbearing about it. The scenes where Wells is in the room with Gideon and they're talking. Those are huge moments, but you don't realize how big they are till you move further and further into the season.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And bring on Caitlin as Killer Frost. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and I like her a lot. I think, and I like that they started doing more with her, because at first I was worried she was just going to be like another girlfriend character, but they've actually done a lot more with her this season, and I was happy with it. And I like Ronnie, like I like that relationship, and I definitely want to see more Firestorm. I'm really curious that they haven't cast Robbie Amell in the Legends of Tomorrow show yet, but yet Firestorm, it looks like, appears at least once.
See, I had a theory on that. What if, as much as I hate to say this, what if we get the death, quote unquote, of Ronnie Raymond? That moment is what, because of how much pain, she just lost the one she just got back, the guy she thought she lost forever, who came back for her. You know,
right.
Ronnie dies again, and then Caitlin, through his death, kind of starts to feel new and realizes that she's meta as well, and, you know, harnesses that power, which is, you know, the counter opposite of the man she loved.
Yeah, then that could be a possibility.
And it's, you know, Ronnie dying would mean that they would need to give Firestorm power to someone else. You could reintroduce Jason Rush or recast Jason Rush, and then that would be, you know, Martin Stein Firestorm 2.0, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other things that I... Oh, by the way, we didn't talk about this either. The Flash Museum was in the... when Barry's running through time.
Yes.
He sees it, and that was a huge moment. They could play on that, and we could see Eobard in the future as a kid.
True, because when he said he's, 126 years in the future? Or
he said, Barry goes, when were you born exactly? And he says 136 years from now, which I think was 2151? I did that math once. Let me look at that.
Yeah,
again.
that would be correct.
Oh, okay, 2151.
I'm surprised they didn't try to squeeze a 52 in there.
They did that a lot. DC. 1 minute and 52 seconds.
Yeah, I know. I'm proud of you, DC. I'm proud of you.
Overly sprinkling their own Easter eggs all over. Don't forget about New 52.
Even though the New 52 doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and see, I'm so far behind on all comics that I'm not even sure what's going on in the current universe. I mean, I heard rumblings on the Batman book, and I didn't pick it up yet. And then I've heard that they've made it to where the entirety of Convergence canonized all of everything that's ever happened in DC.
Well, Convergence isn't supposed to have any effect on anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, except the only effect that it has is at the end of Convergence, all of the previous universe characters are now accessible for writers and creators at DC to use.
But other than that, it's not going to change the story. All of the books that were happening prior to Convergence are all going to pick up where they left off.
Right.
So all it does is give access to the stuff that's been written out of continuity, a way to be brought back into current continuity.
Well, yeah, kind of current continuity. Like it allows them to do new books about them. So like the new Bizarro book, for example, is not the New 52 Bizarro. It's the classic Bizarro, but his story is a miniseries, and it doesn't tie into anything that the 25 New 52 books are doing.
Oh.
Yeah, if that's not confusing enough.
No, it wasn't. I followed that.
Care. I personally don't care. Like I miss the old comics, but I know what DC's doing. Like it's like, all right, sure, we may get a Bizarro miniseries, but I doubt we're ever gonna. And I hope I eat my words on this, but I doubt we're gonna get like a Wally West Flash miniseries. You know, like previous New 52 Wally West. I know they're saying like, oh no, we're allowing that to happen, but I don't feel like that's true at all.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see what DC does, man. And like you said, I hope you eat your words too, because I think that'd be fun to do. Bring the classic Wally West back.
I actually pitched a couple books to DC, like as a writer, and one of the things I pitched was one time was a Wally West Dick Grayson book called The Brave and the Bold.
I would have bought that.
I would still like to write that book one day.
That would be awesome. Absolutely. Another character that I really like is Dick Grayson, and I hope that Titans does him justice, and we end up getting a crossover with that as well.
I will say this about Arrow, and then also about Flash is Grant and Stephen Amell, like those guys in real life, like just as people, I really like them.
I agree 100%.
I like every time Stephen Amell comes out and says something about like how excited he is about the new season, or how he congratulates the Flash show, or how he's upset that Constantine is gone, and he's like, hey, I offer to make a cameo in it if it'll bring the character back or whatever. I like how passionate these actors are about playing these roles.
Not even just these roles, with how excited Stephen Amell is to be Casey Jones.
Yeah, no kidding.
It really, as bummed as I was by the last Ninja Turtles movie, it's making me actually a little excited for the new one.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because it seems like they're doing that in the Ninja Turtles, the new Ninja Turtle movie, to win back all the people that said really negative things about that last one because it was awful. But giant Shreks are not Ninja Turtles. But Bebop and Rocksteady being announced to be a part of the movie, I was like, well, I have to see that. Like, there's no question. They're my two favorite characters. Like, I have to go now.
Right.
And I think the lack of their inclusion is where the original 3 movies went wrong.
Correct.
We could have had a Bebop and Rocksteady movie for the 3rd one instead of them going to fucking feudal Japan.
That was such a bad storyline. Oh, that movie was horrendous. Just the first 2 were great. I think you just put a twitch in my eye thinking about the 3rd one. Like, really. And the sad thing is, that was the first movie that I ever took a girl on a date with, and I was in kindergarten. If you can believe that. Yeah, true that. A little pimp. But we went and saw Turtles in Time in theater. Of course, like both of our parents were there or something. I don't really directly remember. But yeah, we went, we saw it. It was, at the time I enjoyed it because I was a kid, but then I grew up and I was like, why did I like this horrendous piece of garbage? Like, no. Just no. I will say, what's up with Stephen Amell taking badass vigilantes and making them even more badass and vigilante? He did it with Arrow, now he's doing it with Casey Jones.
Yeah. Well, he's just because he's a badass.
He is. He's a great actor, great guy.
Yeah.
He is all about the fandom. I think that's what's number one. He knows that the fans made him. Truth be told, and he's not going to forget that.
Yeah.
I think the same could be said about Grant Gustin.
Oh, his thank you letter that he posted online after the finale was amazing. Like that, like it just shows you like this. I've seen so many like times where actors or someone will go out and say like at Comic-Con be like, hey, we wouldn't be here without the fans, and it just seems like such a cookie cutter line that you can say. So when someone actually knows how to say it with passion and do it in a way that makes you know that they're legitimate, it really resonates, at least to me.
Yeah, I share that sentiment. Their love for it is huge. I think another person who's growing into being the same kind of caliber, even though he's done successful movies, obviously, but I think Brandon Routh is going to become that kind of guy too. He's going to champion being a part of this universe. I mentioned to Brandon on our last podcast, and I wanted to run this by you guys as well, because I think it's a great idea. Would you guys pay like $9.99 a month for an all-exclusive DC app like the WWE Network, but it's all DC shows, anything that's on CW? They could have their own original programming, any of the previous shows, so you could have like the 90s Flash in the archives, Batman the Animated Series, any of the Justice League movies or shows, anything that DC has ever done in one place to always view that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. No question. I would do the same thing for Marvel and Star Wars as well.
See, and I heard that Disney may be doing a Marvel and or Star Wars channel.
Yeah, they should.
Well,
they definitely should.
What other pieces, things you guys want to talk about specifically?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, one thing I like is just speaking of them all as actors, because now, like, Katie Cassidy's getting into it, and forgive me for forgetting his name, but the gentleman that plays her father, Detective Lance, between
Quentin
them
something.
and, like, yeah, between them and, like, the brothers from Supernatural, they all do this thing that Stephen Amell started where he gets fans. It's kind of like what you guys did for your shirts, Shuddy. Like, they do like a fundraiser to, like, make these shirts that the actors themselves, like, work with, like, a fan or a designer on, and they sell these like shirts. And they do it every year, like every season. And Amell has had such success with it that the CW has just kind of encouraged other actors to be involved and do stuff like that for their fans. And it's really cool because it really puts fans, it's like it gives fans a chance to do something like a good cause, which I'm a big fan of getting people to do. And it's like, and they also give fans a chance to, like, design the shirts. And it's just really neat that they do that, and they do these fundraisers. It's like, all right, if we make enough money to sell 1,000 shirts, like, that money will go to, like, fuck cancer, or that money will go to this. And they pick, like, different charity events, help kids, keep kids in school, that kind of stuff. And it's because of things like that just makes it so much easier to support the show and get behind them. Like, even when they have a bad episode, like, or this season of Arrow, where I just thought everyone was just an unrelenting dickbag, and I didn't almost like any character this season, depending on the episodes. I still supported it because all those people are pretty awesome in real life.
Hell yeah. So then I'm going to just ask the most logical next question then, Siike. Did you end up, like, still enjoying the end and what they did with Arrow and how they finished this season out?
Yes. Yeah, I thought the last, like, 2-3 episodes made the season for me.
Absolutely. I think that it was the smartest and best play, and really, can I honestly just say, like, the most obvious, how did I not even think about it thing for them to do, giving the mantle of Ra's al Ghul to Malcolm Merlyn. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, although Malcolm Merlyn has done so much shit on that show that I just want him dead. Like, he's just, like, I love the character. That's the only downside, though, is I love the character and I love the actor more than anything. I love John Barrowman. I love Torchwood, and when I see, like, it's I hate that I want him dead so badly.
Siike, that's so awesome that you brought up Torchwood. I thought that I was, like, the only Whovian that still existed on Earth. But one thing I was going to say about John Barrowman is, when you watched him in Arrow, did you ever go, man, this is Captain Jack Harkness? I did not. He's so good at differentiating himself completely from that character. Like, it just shows what a level of a talented actor that John Barrowman really is,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because honestly, if you're in British television, a lot of times you get stuck being one character. That's why all the different doctors exist, because people don't want to pigeonhole themselves into playing one character. So they leave and they change things up. And John Barrowman could have wrote out the Captain Jack thing until he died. But he got in on Arrow and has done nothing but just continue to impress with his style of acting and his ability. But you're right, all the shit that he has done as a character, his hands were deep in the undertaking. He was a part of the reason that the shipwreck even happened in the first place. He gets Sarah Lance killed. He actually inevitably gets Oliver and Thea both killed.
Right.
Which then partially also causes the quote-unquote death of Roy. Malcolm is just you're right, he's just a dickbag. But Malcolm Merlyn right now, being a part of the League, they could literally not use John Barrowman at all next season. We could not hear from the League at all. And then in Season 5, he could come in and just have a vendetta against Oliver for whatever reason,
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, barky dogs.
Yep, the Chihuahua.
It's okay. Not too worried. So, Shuddy, what else about Arrow or... Oh, Siike, I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
That's okay. I was just saying I've been waiting for my dog to bark this whole time, but he has been in a little nap coma.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to go home later and be in a nap coma. That will be stellar.
They're fun.
Shuddy, what did was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we get moving on here and get into this list?
I really enjoyed Thea showing up as Speedy in the last episode.
Yes. And that's a character that in the first season was like, all right, I like her. She's a pretty girl and all, but what are they going to do with her? Are they ever actually going to make her Speedy? And I never thought it would be believable because she's such like a dainty little thing. But this season, I was rooting for it all season. I thought she was a badass, and I love the finale with her as Speedy.
Couldn't have been said better because she looked awesome. She plays the part awesome. I like how they integrated Malcolm Merlin training her, so now she has a reason to be. That's one thing I really like about Arrow. They don't just go, oh, here, Laurel Lance is great at fighting. She's got her ass kicked quite a few times and had to be trained.
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah. And I like that because to me, like, one of my favorite things about Black Canary, I love what they've done stuff like with her in Young Justice and stuff where she kind of trained the kids. One of the things she would always teach them is like, look, you're going to get knocked down a lot. Like, I fight side by side with Superman. Like, I'm the weak link there, but the important thing, what makes you a hero is that you keep getting back up. And she proved that this season, that she is probably the most heroic out of all of them, because even though everyone told her it was a bad idea, that she shouldn't fight, she shouldn't be part of it, she kept doing it, and not just to be a stubborn bitch about it, but because she knew that a hero doesn't give up, and she was trying to honor her sister for the same reason. So I love that. I thought it made her character way more. I love the character way more this season than I have any other season ever.
Do you think her and Oliver are going to end up together?
You know what? I hope so, because I know there's a lot of Felicity Oliver fans out there, or Olicity as they call them. But I'm not. Like, I like Felicity a lot. I love her character, but and I don't want her to die. I kind of like that she was with Ray Palmer. I was kind of hoping she would move on, because it's kind of like the Chloe Sullivan thing. It's like, well, Oliver doesn't, like. And then, not to put the comic books under a microscope here and say like, oh, because it doesn't happen in the comics, shouldn't happen in the show. I'm all for the shows and the movies doing different interpretations. I just when I look at them as characters, though, I just don't see them as compatible as other people do. But maybe that's because I always look at Oliver as a guy who isn't a one-woman man, basically.
He's very Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and it's not like I like that.
But
I don't like.
Whereas Bruce Wayne does it to just portray an image that people think of him. Right. Ollie does it because he genuinely likes it. That really is the type of person he is.
Yeah, I would go out on a limb and say Bruce Wayne does it because he's gay. I always thought Bruce Wayne. I always thought he should be gay. I never understood why. I'm like, come on, he can be gay. Like, if Iceman can be gay, Bruce Wayne is double gay. I
mean, just look at his sidekick. That's all I'm saying.
You too.
The end. Right.
I mean, he has Alfred sew nipples into the costumes. I mean, come on, guys.
Awkward. One thing that was awesome about this season finale of Arrow, real quick as we touch on it before we move along, the finale of Arrow made me feel pretty much every emotion. Like, when Barry showed up, I was happy and excited and full of joy, and then there's this whole like, oh my god, is the Omega going to destroy the city, and the League is attacking Oliver and everything's going wrong, and then the scene where the Matt and Abel Ra's al Ghul dies was ridiculous. I was not expecting that. Yeah. I was like, because you hear, everyone's going online, well, which character's not going to make it at the end of Arrow this season? And I'm like, well, maybe Quentin Lance dies. Maybe, I hate to say it, but it could be Diggle. It could be anybody. So I'm looking at Team Arrow people, and I wasn't even thinking Ra's. Not at all. Not even for a second,
Right.
And then to just bring it around and Felicity saves Oliver and, and then Oliver makes his grand speech and essentially passes the torch to Thea. Like I said, it gave you this whole, like, it did everything it was meant to do. You felt, you were scared, you were happy, you were sad, you went through the whole train of emotions, and then you come out on the other side, and Oliver's like, and I'm done, and I'm going to Coast City, it's time to party. You're just like, what? So then my question, then leading back to you guys to tie this all in, what event's going to happen to bring Oliver back to Starling City? Because, I mean, it's got to be something major,
Ooh, Shud?
I think the Ray Palmer death.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe Ray Palmer has something written down where the company goes back to Oliver.
Well, I mean, didn't he just give the ownership to Felicity in the event of something?
It would bring Felicity back.
It would bring Felicity back. She would become the owner.
Right.
Which then she would either pass ownership on to Oliver or hold it for herself, which, again, a good plot point. Then she's, even more important than all the, cameras and shit are on her. And she's a face, essentially. Felicity, so far, has been able to kind of play behind the scenes. Give her ownership of this major company, Palmer Technologies or Queen Industries, and she's at the forefront now. She's giving press conferences and stuff, and board meetings and whatnot.
Yeah, and that would be great. I'd like to see that evolution for a character, like the lady that started off answering phones and being in the tech room, and now she's the owner of Palmer Industries or something. That'd be great.
Hell yeah! All right.
Hell yeah.
Do you guys have the list with you on your phones or something?
Oof. I'm afraid to change it on my phone because I have Skype on, and Skype's very temperamental on my phone.
Okay. Trying to figure out how I want to do this. I guess I'll just look. Okay, here's the truth. The first 5 on this list for this top 10, this part of the top 10, aside from number 26, which we'll get to, I don't know a lot about these characters. And like I said earlier, there's actually one character I know nothing about. So I'll just list them 30 to 21. And after I list them, if you guys know something, go ahead and fill people in on good information to have about these characters as they made our top 50. Some of these characters you guys voted for kind of highly in your lists too. So keep that in mind. They're characters you guys actually love. So
Sweet.
We'll get started here. And number 30 as we continue on the Journey into Comics Top 50 that leads into our 50th episode, which is coming up June 14th. Number 30, Swamp Thing. I just know he looks awesome and he has something to do with Constantine. That's as far as I get.
Well, Swamp Thing, to me, was one of the first comics I read as a kid. When I was a kid, I loved monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula, all those characters, and Creature of the Black Lagoon especially. And Swamp Thing was just kind of like that. Alan Moore had just started writing the book after Len Wein, and it's basically like, I don't know, depending on the interpretation you get of the character, there's been versions that kind of come across Beauty and the Beastie, like with the movie and TV show. There's like a goofy version, like they did a cartoon of. He's basically a swamp monster, and he's connected to something called the Green, which is like almost the soul of the planet in a lot of ways. And the Green is nature, and he kind of is connected to it. Sometimes answers to it. Sometimes he's its assassin. Sometimes he's its savior. So he's just like a giant monster. At least that's my kind of take on him. I don't know if Shuddy has something different.
No, I agree with you. He's been chosen to be the protector of the Green.
Right.
Prior to really, I haven't read any of the old Swamp Thing stuff, really. I've read all the new 52, mostly because of what a big part he ended up playing in Brightest Day.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And that, I mean, other than the Swamp Thing TV show from the late 80s, there was really I really had no concept of him until Brightest Day. I mean, I knew who he was, and I knew Alan Moore had written him, but other than that, there wasn't much that I knew about the character.
All right.
That's cool. Brightest Day was one of those stories that the whole time I was reading, because Dead Man is another favorite character of mine, and when as Brightest Day was happening, I kept hoping, please let them bring Swamp Thing in like that. But at that time, he was Vertigo, which was a separate thing from DC for a while, and Brightest Day was kind of the reunion of John Constantine and Swamp Thing back to the DC universe. So it made that story a very important and historic story, because that ultimately led to the New 52 with all of them being under one banner.
Thank you guys for the comic lesson. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Now I'm more interested in Swamp Thing. See, I'm furthering my horizons.
Do it.
Moving on to number 29, and I hope one of us knows something about this character, because I don't at all. I just know that the name of the book is apparently the name of the character, and number 29 on our list is Invincible from Image Comics.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the character, but I know it's Kirkman and Otley, and it's I think I read the first 2 or 3 trades, but it was years ago. It's about a kid superhero, I believe, but I couldn't. Shuddy would have to Shuddy all over me on that one.
Yeah, he's a teenage superhero, son of Omni-Man, who's an alien superhero. Right. But, I mean, like I told you before we started, I thought that was just the name of the book. I didn't realize the character's name was Invincible, too. So it's really a character I'm not even remotely familiar with. I don't know that I've ever read a single issue of it.
It's very emotional. I know that, because I read the first couple trades, and then I think when issue 100 came out, I was like, oh, you know what? This was a good book. I want to pick it up and see what the character's up to. And issue 100 was a pretty stellar issue with a lot of emotion in it. I don't know. I want to read more of it, so I'm kind of ashamed that I don't know as much about it as I probably should.
All right, so we'll move on down, and I know this one's going to be more fun to talk about because I actually know a little bit about her because she's a part of Batman mythology. Moving on to number 28, she's gone by many different names, whether it be Batgirl or Oracle. She is the daughter of one Commissioner Gordon. I know that she was number 16 on Shuddy's individual top 25 list, and that's Barbara Gordon. Who is awesome.
She is. I mean, she was great as Oracle. I mean, she still found a way, being in a wheelchair, to be pretty fucking kick-ass.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the Killing Joke is probably one of my favorite Batman stories.
Yeah, Killing Joke is fantastic. And it's such a defining moment. I mean, for a book that was not supposed to be in continuity when it came out, it ended up having the most profound effect on that character, because then the next time we saw her after that was Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad kept getting messages and tips from some hacker named the Oracle, and then it took a couple issues, but when they revealed it was Barbara Gordon, I remember just being so in love. I was like, oh my God, that's so great. And then throughout my life, knowing people who in the real world who are wheelchair bound or who have, something that requires them to be in wheelchairs, either temporarily, part of the day, or fully, they had a character that they connected with more than anything. Because like you said, it was someone who overcame an obstacle, a very major one that would slow most people down who didn't, who have like a give up attitude. And Barbara Gordon doesn't give up. She is the embodiment of strength in a lot of characters in comics. Like, to me, she's the Rock in a lot of ways, of the Batman family. Like, if they all started to break apart and Dick Grayson started to drift on his own and Jason Todd goes off, Barbara could be that one person that brought them all together again. And that's what I like about her more than anything. So yeah, she's got to be. I'm surprised she's so high on the list. I would expect her to be closer to the top 10, to be honest.
And the way, the way they started her story in New 52 kind of bummed me out the most.
Yeah.
Because they at first kind of just pushed her being in a wheelchair completely to the side and just made it seem like it was only temporary and it was not a big deal in her life.
Yeah, I know. They just like, oh yeah, oh, that time I was in a wheelchair. Yeah, that's cool. Like, yeah. Like,
and then one day I woke up and I can walk again. It wasn't until recently that they finally explained it.
Yeah, and that actually pissed me off too, because I have temporarily been in a wheelchair and then a walker after that, and it was it's not something I just go, oh, that one time I was in a wheelchair. Like, it was, and I, and a lot of my stuff it wasn't a spinal injury. It was all brain related, and it just bummed me out, like, on a personal level, when I saw them just kind of brushing under the rug, especially from Gail Simone of all people. As writing it, I was like, get out of here. Like, come on, lady. You know better than this. You've been writing Oracle for years. You know better than this.
I want to mention, though, Siike, you actually had Oracle in your top 5.
Yeah.
I have your guys' lists, and they'll go up later tonight. But yeah, I didn't actually realize that she was so high on your list, and I was like, oh, look at Siike's list, and hell yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I really love Barbara Gordon. She's fantastic.
And another person who's in your list, Siike, maybe Shuddy's list too, I'll have to double check that, who is our number 27 pick, is another DC female, except for this one's a little bit more badass with her lasso of truth. I'm talking about Wonder Woman.
Yeah, sorry,
I don't think she was on my list at all.
No, she wasn't. I just looked. I just got there.
I hope she was on mine.
Yeah, she's your 10th pick.
Okay, cool.
The list was very hard for me to come up with.
It really is. Me too. Like, I'm not even. I went back and looked at it yesterday, and I'm like, ooh, I would change this. I'm like tinkering my football lineup.
So I've been doing that every time I've seen them post another list. I was like, oh, how did I forget him? Or that she should have been on my list for sure. So
this was no easy task for sure. I asked everybody that I knew, and ended up being a total of 15 people that were willing to participate, that made lists for us. And as you guys know, we had a point system that led to ultimately our top, 50. And it was interesting to see how some things shook out. But I was like, man, I wish I could change my list now. But I'll just leave it. It's fine, Especially after I had pointed everything, because that was a little bit of a task, having to write down every person's name and change the point system. But I did it to myself, but whatever. Tell me about how awesome Wonder Woman is, because she's coming up in this Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah, to me, Wonder Woman is, like, I remember when she first started out, she was kind of like, the guy who created her was actually the guy who created the lie detector. And he kind of had a bondage fetish. He liked seeing women tied up. So that's kind of why, like, she had a lasso that you wrap around you to make you tell the truth. So she has, like, very kinky origins, kind of. But what I like about her is that I grew up in Greece. Like, my little brother was born there. She's a Greek goddess. She's a warrior first and foremost, but she's also a teacher in a lot of ways. And she was kind of her original goal was to be kind of like a liaison between man's world and her world. So Themyscira is kind of her island of women where she was created. She wasn't even born. Her mother and Hades, I believe, wasn't it? Like, made her out of clay, and gave her the power of the gods. And she's a total badass. She is someone who could potentially go toe to toe with Superman, and last longer than, maybe like a Doomsday or something. Like, she's pretty awesome, at least in my eyes. She's that awesome. And she was kind of created to be a liaison, to help bridge a peaceful understanding between her world and man's world, because a pilot named Steve Trevor crash landed on her island. And so they were like, all right, great. Well, now that he's here and there's like a tracking beacon on his plane, humans are going to know where we are. And so we're going to have to kind of become a part of their world. And so we're going to send Diana to be the person to teach man about us. So that's what I really like about the character. That's why she's probably always going to be in my top 10.
Excellent. Shuddy, do you like her?
Yeah, she's not bad. I think that her story was much better prior to the New 52. I think hers is one of the ones that suffered with with the relaunch.
You think so?
I think so. I wasn't liking that whole story arc where she was wandering around with everybody, going to Hades, and I don't know. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about him, so we'll just bring on our number 26 pick and actually know a little bit about this guy. He's Kryptonian. His name is Kal-El. So number 26 is obviously Superman, who used to be one of my favorites for a long, long time when I was younger. And then for some reason, as I got older, I just kind of fell away from even enjoying Superman. Yeah, I have gotten really far away from even trying to read the comics, and I went and saw Man of Steel, and I was apprehensive, and I thought the movie was, okay. It told a decent story, but it was very dark, and I mean tonally dark, and I wasn't really a fan of that,
Yeah. I'll let Shuddy go first. Shuddy me with your soupy knowledge.
Well, I mean, I like Superman and I hate Superman at the same time. It's kind of I mean, Superman as a kid was one of those characters that I absolutely loved. But as I've grown and become more of a Batman fan, Superman just seems kind of like what's the deal? What's the point of having anybody else when he can do everything and he's pretty much indestructible? He can't even die.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, so it's a little. He's very Boy Scout, very.
Yeah, I will say.
In the same vein as Batman, he's very rigid in how he feels things should be.
Right.
But in a different way than Batman. But they're still both very rigid, and I don't think he's as relatable as some other characters.
Sure. It's funny to a white American who grew up liking him. You're right. As you get older and you look to connect with the character, like it's no one's fault besides really DC's that Superman is everyone's favorite childhood superhero, but everyone's least favorite adult superhero. And that's because, especially like I said, white men, we can't relate to being an immigrant. We can't relate to really being an outsider unless you were a nerd growing up. But now as an adult, chances are you aren't an outsider. You have your circle of friends. And so all the things that you could connect to Superman on, like you said, they dissipate in time. What I like about the character more than like Batman, that's the same reason I don't like Batman, is Batman is always right. And I hate that about Batman. That asshole always is right. and to me, that leaves no room for growth for a character. Same with Superman. If he's so powerful, the problem is you have to keep creating villains that are as powerful. And that's very hard to do with Superman, and then have him win at the same time. So I get what you're saying. Like I don't. When people tell me they love and hate Superman, I completely understand why. I am a diehard Superman fan. So even when he sucks in comics, which is pretty much with the exception of like All-Star Superman and Birthright and a couple other side stories, Superman comics have sucked pretty much since he's died in the comics, and that's just. I mean, I don't even know that is my opinion, but I feel like a lot of people probably have that same opinion.
See, it's interesting, Siike, because looking at your list, you just mentioned how you hate Batman. He didn't make your list. And I actually think you were like one of 3 people that did this that didn't even have Batman on their list. And that's impressive, because he is what I would consider one of the 2 most popular overall superheroes in modern pop culture. So I love the individuality that your list brought. It was... It just
why The Last Man made my list and Batman didn't. Batman is. I always look at things from a character. Like I write and edit comics, so I have a slightly different approach to things now. I look at when I make a list of characters, it's characters I want to write. Batman, I don't want to write Batman. I don't know if I think I maybe have one Batman story in me, and that's it. I like Batman because of his villains. I think just like Flash and Spider-Man, Batman has probably the best rogues gallery in comics next to Flash and Spider-Man. And And those are the only things that make Batman interesting to me are his villains.
See, and I've always said that that's what always makes or breaks a character is not necessarily the character themselves, but their rogues gallery. So you said like that's what I am always saying. That's awesome that we share that sentiment because Batman does have a lot of awesome villains, and that ties in beautifully because number 25 on our list is actually a Batman villain and his rogues gallery, and he is probably my number 2 favorite Batman villain of all time, but he is the Riddler. He's been portrayed in both the 1966 TV show, he was in the movie, he's obviously been riddled across the comics. I would have loved to have seen a Christopher Nolan Riddler, just to see how dark and gritty he could have made that character. But I mean, Riddler's on my list, I absolutely love him. I put him at number 10, so he's in my top 10.
Nice.
But what do you guys think about Riddler? I mean, is he something or someone that you guys have ever really connected with or enjoyed how they write him or how they portrayed him throughout the years?
There have been some really good Batman stories that have included Riddler. I liked how Scott Snyder portrayed him in Zero Year. And I want to say Dark Knight, Dark City was another good one. Or Dark City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But he's not somebody that's really someone that I'm like, oh, another Riddler story. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really said that either, but I don't know. There's something about the character, just the fact that he is a giant question, an enigma, if you will. No pun intended, but I don't know. There's something about that character that I've always connected with. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a little bit mysterious and like to never just tell someone outright what I'm feeling or anything of that nature. I like to kind of guide them to come to their own answers so they can figure it out for themselves. I think that's where my love for the character comes from. But it's interesting as we continue on this list. We have only looks like 4 more to go here in the reading of our top 50 countdown. Out of the first 5, 4 were DC, 1 was Image. Or 5 were DC in the top 6, and 1 was Image. And the final 4 are all Marvel. And this is probably where the episode's really going to pick up a notch, because I feel like we all are maybe into Marvel a little bit more than DC. I might be guessing there, but I know that's where my home is.
Gotcha.
So let's continue on here. Number 24. Go ahead.
I love Marvel. I love Marvel and I love DC, but I will always love the DC characters more. But Marvel right now is just killing it. Like, hands down, in my opinion, just killing it on every level.
What do you think about the possibility or not the possibility, because it's official now. What do you think about the casting of Channing Tatum as Gambit?
I don't know if I'm a big enough Gambit fan to really give a shit.
Fair enough. That's an awesome answer. That means that our number 24 pick, who is Gambit, doesn't get a lot of Siike love. Shuddy, what are your thoughts on Gambit?
I mean, I own his very first appearance, and I like the character, but he's not one. I'm more of a DC fan.
Which first appearance? His first in Uncanny X-Men appearance, 266, or his actual first appearance?
The Uncanny X-Men 266.
I love that book. I love that cover. It's like one of my favorite covers. But yeah, Gambit, when I was younger and like watching the X-Men show on TV, I liked that character. He's kind of boring, though, in like actual comic book world. Like, Gambit stories are out and about, and I've never been like, oh my god, got to go pick up, kind of like what you were saying with Riddler. Like, I'm never like, oh man, I have to go pick up that Gambit. It's going to be so good. I don't think I've ever said that. I'm just like, Gambit's here. Cool. He's going to throw some shit. Cards.
He's going to throw cards. Yeah, most likely. Yeah, it's like predicting the Riddler's going to give a riddle. It's like, well, or Wolverine's going to stab someone.
Did you guys see that death count? That I don't remember who just posted it the other day. It might be on comicbook.com or one of the different various places that I go, but it was all the different number of kills that characters have had through the Marvel Universe. And I think
I like that.
The top 3 or the top 2 were Deadpool and Wolverine, and I think Punisher was 3rd.
Yeah, and Moon Knight was on there, I think.
Yeah, Moon Knight was on there. There were a lot of interesting people that were on there that had deaths that I didn't quite expect that had deaths. One person that's no surprise that has killed a shit ton of people is our number 23 pick. He wielded the Infinity Gauntlet. We've seen him in the first Avengers as a little bit of a teaser. We saw him for a few minutes in Guardians of the Galaxy. We then again saw him in a post-credit scene for Avengers Age of Ultron. Let's talk Thanos, the Mad Titan. Thoughts?
Yes. I love him. My favorite thing about him is that he's in love with death. Like the actual embodiment in the Marvel Universe of death. A female, cloaked female who sometimes when you see her true form, she has like the skeletal face. Everything he does, every kill he makes is to impress her. And I think that's the most romantic thing ever. And B, something that sets him apart from every other villain. Like most villains, they seek power and they want to conquer. He really just is so in love with this creature that he wants to almost provide more deaths for her than she does for herself. He's just out to destroy the universe. Like him trying to destroy the universe is the equivalent of me trying to give a rose to a girl on a first date. And I think that's what makes that character so interesting to me.
Hell yeah, he's I had a good point there. He's who said, really thinking about Thanos, who said chivalry is dead? I mean, with no sarcasm there. I mean, really. He's trying to do everything he can to impress death, and it's never enough. And I think that's another thing that's beautiful about it, too, is that no matter what he does, he'll never be enough. He can never be enough,
Right, yeah.
I
right.
mean,
that's why he's like one gauntlet. He's like, maybe that'll get me, like in her favor. And I just love that. Like he just doesn't see himself as an equal to her, and everything he does is to impress her.
Absolutely. Shuddy, thoughts?
He's another character that I haven't read a lot of. I still have yet to read the Infinity Gauntlet.
That's coming soon. You know that.
Yeah, that'll definitely be one that we have to cover. But I've read a few of his newer stuff, and he's a psychopath, but thinks he's doing the right thing.
That's a great way to put it. He is a psychopath who's trying to do the right thing. He's always been like my favorite villain overall in both universes, just because of the kind of like Siike was saying, the human side of him, that he is trying so desperately to woo this woman, quote unquote woman, and as I was saying, he'll never ever 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 be enough, and that's a real life struggle that dudes in the real world do find from time to time. You can't find the one that you love, and you pine after someone, and you throw your soul at this person, and then you're still not enough for the one you thought you wanted, and that's just the way fate works until you find the one that you're supposed to be with. So such is life. Moving on to 22, and it's so funny how this worked out. Siike, you're on the show. It's your number one pick. I'm just going to let you take over on this one because I'm sure you have a lot of fun knowledge about this guy, and I, again, enjoy this character a lot. When I first asked you for a list of your top 25 favorite characters in comic books, do you remember what you told me?
Yeah, Dr. Doom.
You said I want a list of all 25 as Dr. Doom. And I was like, hell yeah. But you can't do that. I need some real answers, damn it. So go ahead and give us some Dr. Doom knowledge.
So Dr. Doom, I think when I fell in love with him, I have still almost the entire run of the Fantastic Four, the all the way from 1963 till now. That run features a lot of my favorite characters like Black Panther and the Inhumans. I really just so where Dr. Doom comes in, where I fell in love with him, was, I think it was issue 5 or 6 of the Fantastic Four. He he throws the Baxter Building, which is where the Fantastic Four live. He throws it into outer space, just because he can. And to me, any villain that is just like, you know what, fuck you, Superman. I'm going to throw the Fortress of Solitude into the sun. Like, you're a dick. That pretty much won me over with that character. And he's a not only that, but as a dictator, because for those who don't know, he runs his own country. It's called Latveria, which is where he was born, and he kind of runs that country. And what's neat about it is he has a better economy there than America does. And now, granted, he runs it with an iron fist, no pun intended. And but he's a total dictator and a total monster on a lot of levels. But he has a self-sustaining country. He's achieved things that most heroes haven't, which is in a lot of ways peace. The only time there isn't peace around him is when he starts a war. And you better believe, if you're reading Secret Wars and some of the stuff Jonathan Hickman's been doing with the character, if he starts a war, he finishes it, and he makes sure that he can win. The only person who can defeat Doom is Doctor Doom. And I think that's what makes him my favorite villain, is only when he seeks power and gets too much of it is when he loses.
So then I have a question. Does that mean that the possible abomination that's going to be the Fantastic Four movie, because of the fact that they just call him Doom and he's not Victor Von Doom, is that part of the reason that movie's going to grate on you and kind of make you really not willing to go see it right away?
I'll be honest with you. The movie, I haven't seen much on Doom, and that may be a good thing for them that I haven't, because that may be my deciding factor of whether I go see the movie or not. But I don't know. The movie itself doesn't look good to me. So it's I don't know. I will say, as a hardcore Fantastic Four fan, I am not excited to see the movie.
Fair enough.
But it has nothing to do with Doom, because I haven't seen much on Doom.
Okay, like I said, the only things that I really know about Doctor Doom in the movie is he's not called Doctor Doom. His name is just Doom. He doesn't have his name is not Victor Von Doom either. He has some other name, and he's a computer hacker. That's what I've gathered in my little information bubble of what's going on with that movie. And as a fan of Doctor Doom, I didn't know if that had affected you in not wanting to see this, but it seems like the movie itself has affected you in not wanting to see this, and it didn't have anything to do with your favorite character.
Yeah, I think he's called Victor Van Dam, maybe, and that's what he was called in the Ultimate Universe. And it seems like they're definitely going for a more ultimate vibe in this one, and that's okay. Like I have that entire run as well of Ultimate Fantastic Four. So I don't know. If I go see that movie, it'll be an impulse. It'll be me just like going, all right, it's the weekend. I don't have anything else to do. Let's just go see Doctor Doom.
Get down of the way.
Yeah, let's just go see what they do with the character. And really, like, my perfect Fantastic Four movie, though, it would actually be called Latveria, and it would be about Doctor Doom. It wouldn't even... The Fantastic Four would be like the villains in the movie.
Kind of like a Suicide Squad.
Exactly. That's exactly how.
With Doom. That'd be badass, actually. Moving on to number 21, and I actually need to see if... because I want to see how much Shuddy can Shuddy all over the place before we close up this episode. I just got to make sure he was even on his list. He was. Number 12. Excellent. So to close out number 21, so 2112 on your list, that's weird, is a psychopathic symbiote named Carnage. And he's one of my favorite characters. Shuddy?
I'm surprised he's not higher on the list.
See, I thought that too, man. I thought for sure he was going to be much further up the list. I thought he'd be closer to another symbiote, but I won't mention where he's at. But, yeah, it was weird to see him kind of in the middle of the pack.
I love what a crazy son of a bitch Cletus Cassidy is. And how disconnected from reality he really is.
Yeah, I mean, he's a psychopath that just happened to get symbiote on him, which then made the symbiote psychotic.
And one of my favorite stories is Maximum Carnage.
Hell yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I have those books hanging on my wall. That's how much I enjoy them.
Nice. Nice.
I just think that was that 3-issue arc was just such a great introduction to that character.
Yeah. Are you talking about his first appearance?
Yeah.
In that was Spider-Man 361 through 363.
Correct.
Boom! Still got it. Like I said, that's my Spider-Man run is the biggest run that I have, 101 to current, and then sprinkle in a few issues under 100. But I love Carnage, and I'm glad that he's at least on the list. There were some other people that didn't even make the list that I was like, damn, wish you would have made the list. But Carnage is awesome. We're almost done here, guys. As always, you guys pretty much know where you guys can find stuff that Shuddy and Siike are doing. I want to mention, Siike, you are a part of a book that's coming out soon, right?
Yes. Well, I'm a very, very small part. I've been helping Brian Buccellato and my boss, Omar Spahi, who is a producer on the book. It is a book called Sons of the Devil. It's coming out through Image Comics, and it is something that Brian has created and worked on, and Omar has helped him execute. And so it's kind of an Awesome Comics venture as well, which is the company that Omar and I run basically. And it's a big step for our company because obviously having something with our logo through Image is a big deal. I mean, we're a company that sold just a couple thousand comics a month, and now we're going to Sons of the Devil, which is in the double-digit thousands. I mean, it's done so well. It's a huge book, and it's a big thank you to people like Shuddy and you guys and people who've talked about it on their podcasts and mentioned it and on Twitter and Facebook. Because so many people helped us get the word out there, and so many great reviews came in, including a great quote from Shuddy, which Brian and Omar love, which we put on every advertising thing that we can, which is Shuddy saying it's the next Walking Dead. It's basically a family of serial killers, and it's told through the eyes of 3 of them through 3 generations. So it's not like the first arc is a 4-issue arc to set it all up, but it is an ongoing series. And thanks to the sales being so great on it, it's definitely going to be an ongoing series. And I'm really proud because I put a lot of hard work into marketing comics today is very hard. It's hard to reach a bigger audience. It's hard to reach new fans and to get people to try new things. So the fact that we've done it successfully officially now and that the book comes out on Wednesday, we're really proud. And I really hope that anyone out there listening checks the book out, because I will say that it is and I've written things and worked on things and done Soulstar. This is a lot of hard work was put into this, more than most of the other projects I've worked on. So I really hope people pick it up and help us sell out at a retailer level.
That would be amazing. I know I'm going to be picking my copy up, and I've been so out of the loop with comics, but I told myself, I was like, as soon as I find out Sons of the Devil come out, I'm going to pick that up the day it comes out. So I'll be there Wednesday picking up my copy, and I know go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say I know my comic shop is going to get some. So I don't have to worry about going there and them being like, we don't carry that. They put their order in. So that's good.
That's awesome. Well, what's your comic shop? What's it called?
10th Planet in Cherville, Indiana.
Okay, cool. I may have emailed them. If I didn't, I will go and check out their website and see if I can, because I email about 2,800 retailers a month. And that list grows every month, every time I can find a new store. So I will look and see if they're on it. If you want to send me a link to anything of theirs,
I could give you direct access to the people that work there. I know them.
If you do that, and also send me an email too, and I will send you issue 2 of Sons of the Devil, the PDF. I'll send it to both you guys later next week. And if you want to do early reviews on them.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Sounds good to me.
I am totally into that. So, yeah, you guys check out the Sons of the Devil book that's coming out Wednesday. I'm excited for it. I know Shuddy's excited for it. Siike, you've got to just be like nervous with anticipation for Wednesday to just be here. You know,
I do. It's not only that, but my job never stops. So even though we're excited for the book coming out Wednesday, right now we're trying to get retailers to continue to keep the numbers high on the book and order issue 2. So if there's anyone out there, you know, retailer-wise, or if you're listening and you go to a comic store, make sure you go in and tell them to order issue 2, because I won't actually get a day off or a day of sleep until we get our numbers for number 2 in. And that'll be probably June 4th or 5th is when I'll get those numbers. So I'm pretty much working nonstop until that happens.
And as always, because he's become a second appendage to the Journey into Comics family, you guys know where you can see Shuddy and listen to his awesome podcast with Mad Scientist Party Hour. Siike, are you going to be on there tonight with those guys?
No, I won't be tonight. My car has been going through a lot. Literally all my brakes on my car went out, and now my clutch is broken. So
Oh, lovely.
So I'm having a good month. So yeah, I'm very. I have to choose driving carefully, and I already drove yesterday, so I have to kind of. I only drive my car like once every 3 days, and yesterday I went out to get groceries. So unfortunately, I won't be tonight, but hopefully I will when they move to their new night, whenever that is.
When is that, Shuddy? I'm kidding.
TBD.
TBD. You don't even have to. I was literally just setting you up on that one. Not trying to press any buttons. But lastly, let me mention to the listeners here, Journey into Comics does have our 50th episode coming up now. Some comic book related podcasts or other podcasts usually peter out by like episode 10 and don't become much. We aren't really much of anything. We just love doing it so much that we've continued to put out content. But we're actually going to be at episode 50, which is kind of a hallmark occasion for us. And one thing that's really awesome about our 50th is when we do that episode, the guys that are talking to me right now tonight, they're going to be there also. Now, they won't be in the room, which would be totally badass, but they will be showing up via Skype to talk about a bunch of different things. I'm actually going to fill them in on their roles after we jump off here. Are you guys excited for our 50th? It's weird, right?
Hell yeah.
I'm so excited that you have no idea. I'm going to be in the room.
Really?
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. So be ready for that.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah. Are you the guy that's going to get your nipple tasered?
I mean, if that's what it takes, I will say this. I am going to show up with no clothes on.
Okay, fair enough. Pants off, dance off.
My nipples will be exposed for the tasering.
All right, I'll make sure Brandon remembers that you just said that. What was that again? Can you say that again one more time?
I'm saying my nipples will be exposed for tasering.
Okay, good. That's going to be a button.
Yes.
So I just set you up for that perfectly. That was great.
Yeah.
All right.
Aneurysm found of that.
Just everybody check out everything that's going on with both Siike and Shuddy. I love having these guys on the show. This was a fun Flash Talk episode. We closed it out with the 30th through the 21st in the list of the top 50. According to the people that know anything about Journey into Comics, top 50 anyways. But I had a great time. I hope you guys did too.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Can't wait to do it again. Maybe one of these book clubs that we do, Shuddy, we can get Siike to participate. I think that'd
Absolutely.
be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know
read.
much about that, Siike, but we will pick usually a trade or something that's already in trade form as a little story arc. We read it, and then we all get together and just discuss, if it held up to the times or things we loved, things we hated. I think the next one we're going to do is Hush. And then outside of that...
Have me for that one, please.
Have you for that one, please? Then
Yes.
it's done. Thine will be done.
I know I'm not a big Batman fan, but when he's done really well, I like the animated series or the Arkham games. That's when I become a Batman fan, and Hush is definitely something I love.
All right.
So then you're in.
See, you guys heard it
Nice.
here first.
Nice.
Ask and
Thank
thine shall receive. All right, guys. Well, that does it for this episode of Journey into Comics. I don't know what to title this. Fastest Man Alive, some shit reverse. I don't. I'll figure that out later. I don't know. Usually the names come to me like late at night when I'm putting the episode up. I'm like, I'll just call it this, or Brandon names it, or we riff. So, anyways, until next time, I want to again thank you, Siike and Shuddy Boy, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. And one last time, I'm Nate.
Shuddy Boy.
I'm Siike.
And we'll see you guys next time. Ciao.